Hello and welcome to Connect Through Beauty. My name is Ashley Rivera, and my goodness, I'm so glad that you are here. I have to tell you, ever since I was a little girl, beauty has been such an inspiration to me. It's made me feel good when I wasn't feeling so good. It is incredible to watch a transformation from beginning to end, to the way people feel when you turn them around and they look in the mirror and they're just like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think my hair could do that. Or I didn't even think my skin could look like that. Wow. And that feeling is so addicting. That feeling of helping someone else is something that I have chased ever since I got the feeling myself when I looked at myself in the mirror the time that I had a transformation in a salon. It's been this lifelong journey for myself and finding myself and discovering who I am, which I know that all of us have. All of us have at one moment felt that feeling of, I need to make this my career. And so my mission with Connect Through Beauty is to bring you valuable tools from each guest that I bring on and each episode, so that you can continue every day to wake up and feel so good about what you do. You decided to get into the best industry ever. And yes, it comes with great responsibility. And yes, it does come with some burnout feelings. But that's why we're here, and that's why you're here. We're going to work on this together. We're going to work on elevating yourself to a point where you just don't even have those feelings anymore, because you have the tools to get through the first client to the last client. You, my friend, can do this. You set out on this path to help people feel so good about themselves. You chose the most beautiful, beautiful industry to be a part of, where you can make a crazy income. I got you. And I know every guest on here does too. We want you to succeed. We want you to elevate yourself, continue to grow, and be the best version of you we all know you can be. Welcome back to Connect Through Beauty. I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with Gordon Miller and Michael Cole, both geniuses in our industry. Both have over 40 years of experience throughout all different facets: leadership roles, salon roles, schools, education, you name it, they have been in it. So I am so excited to bring all of these tools and brilliance your way. Listen in and keep staying connected.
So interestingly, Michael and I are in somewhat similar ranges here. My career now, I'm in, I'm coming up, I guess, on year 45 in the industry, and started in the school part of the industry, literally on the ground, working in schools, not a hairdresser, not a salon owner, and kind of moved into the national scene in the mid 80s when I moved to Pivot Point. And that's where I started really hearing the bigger industry and all the parts and pieces and how things happened and didn't happen, and frustrations and challenges and opportunities, and across every category. From that point forward, I was more in love than the industry that I thought was possible, because I'm just a wonk for geek and trends and where it's all going. And my passion when I was in college was economics, which was not something I can make a career out of, but a lot of what we're talking about will kind of fit into that category. And interestingly, what you're bringing up is a question we've been asking ourselves my entire career. So it's not new. It's always framed in the times, so, different things are happening in the world, in the industry, outside the industry, around the industry in any given era. And sometimes it's the evolution of the salons themselves. And when Michael and I were younger, we didn't quite have the same mixture of salons that we have today. We've always had independence. It started in the late 1800s, so it's not new. But things have changed, and it's the context of the times and the context of how human beings, especially different generations, are within the times. I've always believed that once I started paying attention to this topic and started really pondering it, and most of my pondering is connected to just observation and seeing what other smart people are doing and seeing and where success is happening. And I always go back to the same place, that I think that people who have dreams in life, whether it's a career in cosmetology or a career in a different industry or something individually about their own life, their personal lives or whatever, that 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 we often most easily give up on our dreams. And I think everyone who comes into this industry comes with a dream of some sort. They're not all the same, but I think they come with dreams. Um, that when our reality doesn't meet our expectations, that's when things begin to potentially fall apart for us. And I believe over the course of my career, the expectations that the industry puts in the heads of young people, we have great responsibility, I believe, especially at the school level, especially as educators, whether it's in school or out of school. I actually think there's no group of people in the industry with more responsibility to the rest of the industry than educators, as it's a life they've chosen. And educators, can help someone, dream, some help people reach their dream, or they can crush their dreams, and everything in between. But I think when we fail to give people expectations that are equal to the times that we live in, right? So the expectations that we shared when I first came in the industry aren't necessarily so relevant today, because we live in different times. We have different tools. Everything's different. What it takes to do hair color today is different than 20 years ago. So an expectation to a technician, to someone doing hair color, you're going to teach them a little bit differently. So the expectations of how to get to results are different. I don't think we share enough when people come into the industry, before they even decide to get here, how long it takes to become successful. Michael's always done such a great job shining a spotlight on those who are successful, and then analyzing them and decoding them and sharing with other people how that works. And he and I, especially during these digital times, have talked about what I originally called unicorns. And I think, they're so important to put in front of people, because they are the ones who are just blowing it up. And in some ways breaking rules, and certainly I would say for other people, maybe exceeding expectations. And so I'll stop there and let Michael respond, but I think we have a disconnect between the expectations that we put in people's heads. You are an artist, you can be anything, you can do anything, you can become successful really fast. Anybody can do this kind of thing. That's how I feel we kind of are today. And we have stopped, in part because of marketing and how marketing is thought of today. We've kind of stopped talking about the blocks that most people will perhaps experience. And we used to talk in my early career about blocks in a positive way, that these are all things that can be overcome, that must be overcome, that must be anticipated, and they will help you decide what you need to fill your head with to become successful. So I'm ranting, Michael.
No, I did. Ashley, now you know why I like engaging conversations with Gordon. It's very, I'm very inspired by what he's pointing to, and I see what he's seeing. I'll house it in my language. Him and I were kind of catching up with each other because we knew we would be doing this podcast with you. And as we were talking about this and the questions that you're asking, my new preface now, or question is, so the people that we're talking about, are they or are they not being coached? Because it's almost like in this wide community of people coming in, and as Gordon so brilliantly put it, we come in with a dream to the degree that our reality matches our dreams, boom goes to dynamite and we're happy. To the degree it doesn't, it starts getting unpredictable. But you throw a coach in that mix, and all of a sudden now a coach, and when I say coaching, that monthly or semi-monthly or whatever, I have an opportunity to spend a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour with a coach, whether that's online, real time, doesn't really matter. And this is not, I'm advocating coaching, not necessarily coaching companies. But all of a sudden now there's a probability that I'm going to be a little bit more consistent, persistent, persevered. If persevering is a word here, because my coach is going to help me clarify the dream. It's going to help me to turn the dream more into vision, goal, strategy. When I get stuck and I'm face down in the mud with arrows in my back, and I'm going to be, the coaches helped me to kind of get it a little bit more resilient. So that's the first thing I want to make. The other point I want to make is I love the term unicorn, because it sounds like there's a mystique, or you know, that people are enchanted and you know, at face value, oh, maybe, but I've studied them now and now my AKA for unicorns are Jedis.
Right.
That in at face value, that you look, if you study long enough, you go, okay, this person that I'm not only watching, but looking at their metrics, the stuff that really matter, you know, getting to levels more, better, faster than the masses. I'm discovering that I would call them intuitive geniuses. They just, you know, they got the touch. But there's a science behind what they're doing. I can find the principles here if I look long enough. When I hang out with them, and as Gordon said, I'm trying to kind of put it in a frame or a system, whatever word he used. You can't scale intuitive genius. You can scale intentionality. You can scale structure and system. So I'm really notorious for, I know we can translate that intuition into intention and strategy. If they let me hang out with them long enough, I'll get enough of it so that I can go to people that are less intuitive. And now I got a coaching model,
Right.
you know, and the rest is history. So that's what I want to say to what Gordon was pointing to.
And can I add something? You go, Ashley, and then I want to add something. You go.
No, add it. Go ahead.
You know, it's interesting, you know, the coaching phenomena, you know, it's been around for a very long time, but it has not really been the kind of conversation the industry has had in the past compared to today. It's blown up. You know, I think there's so much awareness of it, and we have more coaches than we've ever had. And like anything, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly in every category of every life of every industry. But what fascinates me, and I'm working on a podcast now about this topic, is that I strongly believe that one of the reasons that what Michael points to is more relevant, more important perhaps than it ever has been, and again, they've been around for a long time, is that there's another piece of the industry that has evolved that we don't talk about, and that's the institutions. There's an institutional, you know, foundational part of every industry. And I always use kind of the real world as a metaphor, you know, outside the industry. And I look at our country, and you look at most countries. In the last 10, 15 years, institutions, most argue, have fractured. Public education has fractured. The government, in many ways, regardless of your politics, is fractured. We may look at it differently from a political perspective, but there's a lot of things that aren't working the way that we would like them to, that kind of underpin everything, underpin business, underpin fairness, underpin, you know, how things actually flow and work. In our industry, the institutions I would define as the schools, you know, I would define them public and private alike, and those who regulate them, most importantly, because they drive what happens, or have perhaps regulate them in name only. You know, when regulations haven't changed in 50 years, you know, are you really regulating? You know, so, you know, because that becomes one of the challenges. In our industry, you know, big distributors, big manufacturers, they're institutions as well as creators of stuff, because they have so much influence on everything that I can view them, take away the brands for a moment, and I can see them as a layer of institutional heft that matters, and how they talk about things, how they think about things, how they approach things, how they budget for things. So in the last 2-3 years, we've seen education budgets slashed throughout the industry, beginning, by the way, with salons. Salons were slashing education budgets well before our brands started doing it. And then coming out of COVID, lots of economic turmoil, and so lots of change. So, and then you have the digital thing that happened. And so digital further fractured the institutions, in my opinion, because digital became an easy way. People went, oh, this is how we're supposed to go. But we didn't really take the time to figure it out, and we haven't done it very well as an industry. And then simultaneously, we reacted to it as if we were going to do it well. And so we saw more education fall by the wayside. So I could go on and on about that, but I think there's a layer of the institution which is almost in its best form, and it's not always this way, including in the larger world, in its best form, it's also like a conscience for us. You hope that it serves as that. You know, we talk about race, you know, in America, you know, we would hope that our institutions, you know, our political institutions, our policing institutions, you know, you would hope that the conscience of kind of the larger country would live in that, you know, that would kind of be there and help us to be better, because we need that as individual human beings. It's kind of like the same for our industry. I feel like it's not what it was. And I feel about our country, I don't know if there's ever going back So then what happens? Well, we live in a capitalist country. You hope that people who go, hey, I'm good at this. I can make a living at this. I think a lot of that is why the coaching thing is blown up.
I love it. Yeah.
The hard part is, how does that find its own way to good collectively? Because capitalism also brings in, good, bad, the ugly.
Are you interested now? Oh my goodness. They both are just so incredibly smart about our industry, and I just love listening to the both of them. So continue listening, and I have everything linked in our episode notes, so you want to go back and give them a follow. They have a ton of resources that we're talking about on this podcast. Coaching's going to come up a lot, and it's very important to know why you want to be coached, why you want to be pushed, and why you want to grow. Where are you going, right? You don't get into a car and not know where you're going. You need to know where you're going in your career as well, especially in your personal life too. Continue listening. If there was education and coaching, like you're saying, more towards like the mental, the mindset side of this whole thing, along with the skill set, but if you bring it all together in full circle, people really understand what this job, this career is. And I think that is huge. That's a missing piece. And then
that's a choice. That's a choice. That's a choice. That's a choice to miss that piece. We've chosen that. I ran schools. I ran the Pivot Point School, one of the best schools in the world, for 2 years, back in the late 80s. You did not get into our school with the conversation you had. The conversation had to go deeper. We were in the job of getting people through school and into good jobs. If the majority of people coming in didn't know why they wanted to be here, really why, if we didn't, and if they didn't know why, if we didn't give them the opportunity to figure it out, then bad on us. But we also didn't feel they were the right fit for our school. And we don't do that anymore. And I don't know how many ever did, but it was a different time and it was done more.
And I think we can see a results in that.
Right. I want to circle back to something I was talking about, and I want to tie it to some things that Gordon was saying, and you, Ashley, and that is, you'll have, you have your community of cynics, pessimists that say, well, no, wait a minute now. In our company, we coach, and we still can't get them to blah, 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 blah. And so my next question is, okay, so are they Jedi coaches? Like how that, you can do the 80-20 rule on coaches, right? And so, and if you, oh yeah, we got great coaches, great. Would you mind if I audited your model? Because I say this with gratitude, not grandiosity. I've had the opportunity, the honor to really hang out with, learn from, engage in what I would call world-class coaching, where the people we coach are the very people that are, blowing the charts, if you will. They're off the charts. So I want to say that. The other is, and Gordon and I were talking about it, I love that he says institutions, we got schools, we got regulation, and then over here we've got, the brands, and that there is much of an institution as, manufacturers selling products. I happen to be, powered by, if you will, a brand for many moons. And as Gordon and I were catching up, I said, coaching needs to get fused with this. So so I said, and I'll say this now, if I want to be very, very mindful to not drop names. If you're a brand out there and you're a big brand and you pride yourself to being on edge and consider, buying a world-class salon coaching company that's noted for Jedis and merge them and purge them with your current sales force, because that's being changed as we speak with online ordering now in the salon. So the traditional salesperson, not them, but that function is becoming obsolete. I don't think it's going to go away. I think it gets reimagined, and that is those people that are left, salespeople, that their job, if it's not exclusively, it's primarily to coach the living daylights out of their clients, and their clients will go, yeah, I'm in, because you can make a value proposition for, let me coach you for 60 days or 30 days, and just see the difference. And if you're really a Jedi coach, 2 weeks into it or a week into it, your client's going to go, oh my God, I can't believe this. This is too good to be true. It's a marriage made in heaven. So as I peek around the corner, I don't have to stretch my imagination that one day a brand is going to buy a reputable salon coaching company, and that's going to be, like a Netflix blockbuster play, and the rest is history. Now, again, half the stuff I say I see, I'm hallucinating. I just don't know what's out. But I have to rant on it because I believe in it.
And I'm going to add, often when Michael and I have these conversations, my reaction usually afterwards, and we just had this conversation earlier this morning, and I haven't had time for this, but I just did it as you were speaking, Michael. And that's what I want to peek backwards. I'm always looking for, like, what's the historical precedent for a new idea? Because there always is. Like social media. When I fell in love with social media, and I was one of the early adopters that were going back quite a few years now, I was like, and it was somebody not in our industry who said social media is word of mouth on steroids. That was the early Facebook years. And I was like, what? Word of mouth on steroids? It must be good for us. It must be good for us. And a lot of people thought I was crazy, including a lot of brands. But I was looking back going, word of mouth, that is the fundamental marketing tool of the industry in that era, prior to. So I'm like, okay, this is so powerful. This works. What Michael just talked about, coaches, so funny. Like, I always use the example of Sam Ricardo, who's one of the more iconic hairdressers of the last 50 years, but there's a lot of others like him who say this. When Sam talks about how did you get here? How did you have this brilliant career? How did you own so many salons and schools? And he says it was because of, and I'll say Joe Blow because I can't remember the person's name. He was like, it was Joe Blow, my local distributor sales consultant, because that's what they were called, the DSCs, consultant, and which is similar to coach. And in the old days, they were coaches. They were the original coaches in the industry. Now, they didn't have what a Michael Cole has, but that was such a big part. And we had no stores back then. So it was a different landscape. And almost any salon that blew up in that era, and it's still around today, the Gene Juarez's of the world, the big iconic salons that have been around for 50 years, they all grew out of that era and grew out of those relationships with family-owned distributors who had sales consultants who were paying a lot of attention to who was succeeding and who was not, and then sharing the best practices because they wanted all their customers to succeed because that's how they got their paycheck. But and I don't know, Michael, how you think about that, but I connect the dots to exactly what you're saying. And of course, now we're in a different time. And so what you just expressed, that idea of taking this modern coaching idea and merging it into a distributor platform, which really in many ways takes us back to where we were, to something that worked, but in a modern way. And I love that.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly that the DSCs of another era, they were the intuitive geniuses in that time. If you ask them what they were doing, is, well, I'm partnering with salons. What's that mean? Well, I'm going in and but now with intentionality and strategy and system and model, you're going to go back and do that with attraction, a result that's going to be exponentially greater. So, stay tuned, more will be revealed.
Yeah. And the industry is so much more competitive today. That's another reason it's similar, but it's so different. They were leading at a time where we didn't even have big salons like we do now. I mean, so it was a really different time, and everything has changed. And with how competitive it is, I think anybody who wants to be good, especially as a salon owner, but even moving down into almost everybody, get a coach. Weight Watchers has proved the power of coaching. The fitness business has proved the power of coaching. Both of them in extreme ways, to say that change is hard. Changing our behavior as human beings is hard. And what's interesting to me about the beauty industry is there's a series of, there's several lanes that hairdressers have to live in. Technical lane, the kind of the recommendations and consultative lane, there's the business lane, if you will, there's the soft skills lane. They're all the bullet points of how to be successful, and we're all there, just like the bullet points of how to be healthy and lose weight are all in front of us, but we all struggle with them. And coaches decode that stuff for us. And
yes, I love that decoding. I was smiling because I'm now seeing sober coaches.
Yeah.
Right. I need, traditional rehab doesn't work for me. I want to buy a sober. I have somebody in my family. I don't want to drop names because I don't want to get blowback from my kinfolk, but struggled in social skill, academic skill in middle school. And after a lot of different tries, all of a sudden, this person has a life coach. Inside of a 90-day window, I see this person holding up a certificate that says student of the month. 90 days before that, whatever they were holding up, it wasn't student of the month. It was, something that was tended to be on the inverse of that. So coaching, I think, and today I would even say, the age of digital coaching, which is whether I'm coaching you on a Zoom or I'm coaching you on a Zoom to how to use your digital skill set, I should say digital tool set, to get skillful at that so that you can collapse time and, blow the charts.
Yeah. There's so many avenues to this. Like, so many things are running through my mind. I love this so much. I think it's almost like imperative that you have to have someone to hold you accountable. Even if you're the owner of the salon, yes, you're at the top and no one is holding you accountable. But then what happens, right? So I love that you're saying to kind of branch out and utilize the brands. I think that's genius.
I'd like to use the word that you said, and you hear this a lot, that people need help being held accountable.
Definitely.
And Gordon and I were chatting about this, whatever we want to call the next generation that's in our 20 somethings now, whether it's Zennial, Gen Z, or whatever. Language matters to them. Words matter to them. So when I'm engaging them in a conversation about coaching, I rather than coaches hold you accountable, it's coaches coach you on how to hold yourself accountable without beating yourself up. And a Gen Z says, okay, you had me at hello. If coaching is you're going to sit me down once a month and give me a report card, you know what? No, I know what that's like. That doesn't work. So
my gen would say to you, just tell me what the hell to do. Right? I mean, again, the difference.
Yeah. There's a huge difference. That's why you need a coach. I think if you're continuing on the same path you've always been on, then you're always going to get the same results.
Yeah. And again, going back to a different form of institutions, salons have never been smaller. So we've seen this kind of collapse of the big mega salon. We don't have as many of them anymore. The average salon has 3-4 people in it. That's statistically the reality. We've seen, kind of shifts back to the generational thing, which has a dynamic as to how we interact with each other. And I would argue that the kind of organic coaching that happened every day in so many salons around the country for so many years, and the mentorship that was just kind of baked into the model that people understood, that it also has been broken. COVID helped break it, almost shatter it, totally. And so that just creates, again, this whole nother need to somehow fill in that gap. If that gap is gone, like, how do we fill it in? Go back to Michael and coaching.
Yeah, the other thing that, and we're in kind of, whatever you want to call it, liminal space, the in-between. So salons today, in addition to the coaching variable, it's, do you have 5 people? Do you have 10 people? To me, it doesn't matter. Give me the age range so I get a sense or a taste of the genre. Because depending on your genre, you were around when there wasn't, or you weren't around when there wasn't. You know, I mean, I'm hearing a narrative now from a 20-something that says, you know, okay, I get it. I hear you, Boomer or Gen X, but it's not my fault that you were around to not have resources that I have. Right? That's not my fault. Like, I get that you weren't and you had to take down trees with hammers, but you know what? I wasn't there. I was born with a chainsaw, and I'm going to use that. And now they wouldn't say it in the way that I just, but that's what they're pointing to. And what I'm saying is, you could, in a salon, you could have it two different salons in the same brick and mortar. A Gen X, and I'm using age as my distinction, and maybe that's not good, but it is. You've got somebody that's been behind the chair for 20 years is going to have a way different, and they're busy. Is going to have a way different experience of someone that's been in the business 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, and they're really busy. And you look at their modum of operandi, and one's traditional, and the other is whatever you want to call it, modern day, digital, what have you. And it's going to take a while to merge that. I'm now getting calls from salons saying, I have Gen X and boomers, but they have another 10, 15 years of shelf life in them. They're only late 30 something, 40 something, even 50 something. You got another 10, 15 years of career in you, and you kind of find yourself on a melting iceberg. Are you going to be able to kind of hold your own the way you've held your own forever? And they're going, I don't think so. It's getting so. How do I don't know that I want to be Gen Z-ized, but somewhere between those two extremes, can I find a medium? But make no mistake about it, you will need a coach.
1000%. Yeah.
I love you too much to not tell you. Right. You need a coach.
And education has taken a turn for the worse in our country, and like, how do you fix it? And again, it becomes that grassroots phenomena that where you often see it. It's like, oh my gosh, it works over there. Why does it work over there? When you dig into it, it's well, they're doing the work. They're doing the work. It's not easy to do that work. And it takes a village. And again, I think the villages are fractured as well. I want to add something else, though, from a best practice perspective, is one of the things that's fascinating to me always about success is there's so many ways to skin a cat. There's so many ways to do a great haircut. There's so many ways to get to a hair color. It's not one size fits all. I look at the wide industry. That's my sweet spot. It's talking to as many people I can across all kinds of things. And Michael's just been brilliantly focused for his whole career on here's the people killing it. And again, decoding that for the masses, So, and we were talking earlier about the 80-20 rule, and it seems to apply to everything in life. I've taught social media now for I taught it for a solid 10 years. And then I stopped teaching it because I was on an airplane going to Philadelphia for an event. And I was like, oh my God, everybody sucks at it. I'm I've been doing this for 10 years and I'm going through Yelp and I'm looking at Instagram pages and I'm looking at Facebook and and I started doing it obsessively. And I was like, oh gosh, I forgot. It's the 80-20 rule, of course. At best, 20% of hairdressers who do social media will be even decently good at it. And then coming out of COVID, the giant aha I had talking to a lot of people was, including young people, and I've been talking about this somewhat on the podcast of mine, word of mouth is the foundation of everything. It still works. And whether it's on social or off social, it still works, And if you're not that person who has the skills to be good at social, you just can't get yourself there, you don't enjoy it, whatever the hell's blocking you, then, take another strategy related to word of mouth and do it. And I saw a study recently that said that something I think it was 58 or 59% of new clients coming into salon today, this is probably 6 months ago, were old school word of mouth. They're coming from old school word of mouth. That under word of mouth online was, that was further down on the list. And so that fascinates me. That doesn't mean that if everybody was doing social, we wouldn't all be doing better. It's not really a commentary on what works. It's commentary on what is, And but I have a really close friend who doesn't like social, doesn't do social, and is completely solidly booked, more so than ever today, all because of word of mouth, in their
I
mid
have to
30s.
tell you something. Our number one stylist in our entire company is not on social media. And she's not at the top level.
How old?
She's working 4 days a week and she's almost 25.
Yeah. See, so again, different strokes for different folks. And I love
Easy.
this, but it's also important that we understand that people learn how to do it. Right. Again, there's many ways to cut hair,
agree.
but learn it well. Whatever your method, learn it really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the connection that people have with each other. I mean, how strong connections are like that. And that's never going to go away.
No. And I think the easiest way is social media. I will say from an efficiency perspective, if you can get someone who can embrace it and do it, like I'm a huge proponent. But I did have this realization a few years back that it was like, well, they're just not getting there. What am I going to do? Like, how do I feel good? I started doing classes on why you should do social media instead of how you should do social media. That was my big pivot. And I literally flew into an event to do a class on how to do it. And I said to the organizers, it was a big distributor, it was an audience of like 500. And I said to the audience, I decided while the plane was landing to change topics. I apologize, but I was like, I need to talk to you about why this matters, because I've been doing it for 10 years and I'm convinced that I must have been doing a terrible job, because if you don't know why, the how doesn't matter.
Oh, 1000%. But I also think if you're not confident in, like, a confident person, do you have it in you? Do you have like the desire, the want to do it? Then it's just not even going to, they're not even going to try.
And that starts with why. Why should I lose weight?
Right,
why should I be able to walk faster? Why should I be healthier? If you don't have the right answer to the why, again, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, purpose before action. Right. I mean, it's basically you're saying, give me the why, because once I got the why and the why is resonating with me, I'm motivated to take the action to get that. The other thing I wanted to say is that it's interesting. There isn't a time that I come and hang out and kind of go deep with Gordon where I leave with content. New content. We're both content creators, and we're as good as our newest piece of content. And today, the shelf life and content's like, an hour. So, but it's interesting. I heard him use a couple of words today in this podcast called "great coaches decode." And where my head went is that, at face value, you go, unicorns have cracked the code, or what, whoever and so it's like, well, maybe, but a great coach says, no, they didn't crack the code. There's a code going in there. We need to decode it so that we can teach it to people that are not that intuitive. And I have yet to find that that's not true. That any secret sauce, the secret sauce, there's no such thing as a secret sauce that cracks the code. And if there is, you be wary. Somebody's selling you snake oil. But the coach's coach is, let's decode the secret sauce so that the maker of the secret sauce can go back to their world much more intentional, and now we can go to people that aren't intuitive and say, follow the yellow brick road.
So what do you think these in decoding, what are the unicorns doing? What are these things that they're doing that set them apart from everyone else?
Well, I mean, if I went and I have studied or have been interviewing them, I'll go, okay, yes, they're on social. Okay, I get that. But what you're using social as a platform to put all this content that you're creating, you're documenting this, and you're branding it that, and you're putting, and that conversation has been going on. That's not a new conversation for the last few years. But to Gordon's point, why should I do this? And why should this matter to me? And then somewhere in there is the natural consequence, not the punishment, of not. So you might get, this person that you're saying, number one person in our company isn't on, and she's at, and I'm going, wonderful.
Yeah.
let's keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
And to see that, because I just see the rule books. Rules don't have the shelf life that they used to.
Mm.
But I,
Gordon and I just discovered. I should say Gordon discovered and then blew in my ear about it. I don't want to get into the conversation about a new. I'll call it a digital tool that it's a game change.
Nice.
And so all of a sudden, gee, whatever the rule book was before discovering that resource, it was like, okay, I got to take a deep pause and go, okay, how has the game changed, and what is the new rule book?
Mm.
and here's what I would layer onto that, and it's one of the things that has kept me in this for 40 some years. And I'm not a hairdresser, and I've never been a salon owner, but I've had this amazing life because of hairdressers. And what I've learned along the way is that it's not a complicated business. It just isn't. Creating success is not complicated. It's not easy. It's a hard business, but it's not complicated. And we've figured out over time all the foundational stuff. And again, it's a fairly short list. The tools on how we do what we do, whether it's cutting hair, coloring hair, or marketing ourselves, or engaging with our guests, or providing, those have changed with time, as they always will, as they always have, as they always will. But again, the foundational stuff's not there. And what that has proven to me time and time and time again, which keeps me excited about having conversations about this, is that anybody can come into this industry if they have the right attitude and the right drive and the willingness to learn the stuff you got to do to make it, and they double down on it, the stuff that we know. And there's various ways to do that stuff, whether it's, again, drying hair or marketing yourself. You can be successful. Like, anybody who just gets all the right stuff in their head and and practices and does it and stays committed to it, you can be successful, and period, end of story. I so believe that. And it's kept me excited for all these years,
Absolutely. No, I can't agree with you more on that. I can't agree with you more. It's so neat, like how this industry has so many, like you guys, like so much value, and you guys are adding so much value still to the industry. I love that, because even Michael, with the students, I mean, you're bringing all of these tools to them and having them looking at themselves differently. And I think that's important when you are giving someone something that they have not seen before in themselves. And I think that it's like, I mean, that's what this is all about.
In our time left, I wanted to just point to something that I hear, and I'm going to paraphrase what I hear, because it's salons that have been in the game a while. So, second decade, third decade, and around during a time when we just didn't have at our disposal what we have today. And I was just on a call yesterday. Maybe that's why it's so fresh. And the owner is my age, part of my genre. So one of my homies, and I heard the owner say in a fairly short window of time that the genre, the people that have been with them forever, that's not what's on this owner's mind. It's the newer genre, blah blah blah. And what I got a sense was that they felt disempowered, meaning the salon owner, like, I can't get them to do this stuff.
I hear that a lot too.
And so, one of the things I said is, so you almost feel disempowered, like you've lost your influence. Yes. And I go, well, I would like to suggest that we are not disempowered. The power has been differenced, which is different than I've been disempowered. No, there's been a power change. Digital, COVID, whatever you want to call it, both have moved some things around. Once you study those movements and pivot accordingly, and part of that is you as an owner need to go back to being a student again. Maybe it's been a couple of decades.
So good.
Right? Yeah. But I've been, and I took that, I would be the first to say, guilty as charged, Your Honor. I've been a student all my life as much or more than I am a teacher. So the idea that I'm going to go learn something new doesn't have the that it does to, you know, a fellow 70-year-old. So I would say to salon owners, young yourself down by being a student again, and look at people in your genre that have done that, so that you can see it can be done. It's not rocket science. It's just, okay, I'm gonna go learning again. And it's this idea that if I can't do something really good the first time out, I forget that, well, I'm not supposed to know what I'm doing the first time out. It's just been so long since you've done something, tried to do something that you're clueless of doing. Anyway, I'm done.
And I would add, you know, going back to why, because I think it connects to everything that Michael's saying in a different kind of way, is that, you know, I almost think we have to contextualize why by generation. If I'm my age and I'm trying to understand a younger person who's not doing something I think is important, the first question I think I should be asking myself is like, why do I think it's important? And if I've proven to myself that it is, what is the variation of why that I need to put into this other person's head and get them to agree with, understand, relate to? Because again, as time shifts, getting to the same place, I think the why of the journey is different. You know, my why at my age is different than, and the why that I had when I was 20, I would argue would be different than my Gordon at 20 today. Same exact human being, everything's the same. I would need a different why. And it's up to the people around me who I work for, who I work with, the school I went to. That's where all the whys are supposed to come from. Like I'm the kid trying to find my way. You know, it's like, somebody help me with the why. Again, the institutions, the people around me, blah, blah, blah.
That's so true. I love that point of view, because you do have such mix in salons of generations. And I think that has been a struggle, just understanding where the younger generation is coming from, and them being humble enough to understand where the older generation is coming from. And I think, and then, you know, coming together as a team, as a commonality ground, I think is something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yep.
And the leader, the coach, is struggling with that too.
And then add the competitive aspect of it, which rarely gets talked about. But almost every salon there's a competitive thing. Years ago, I was having my hair cut in a salon by an owner who I knew pretty well. He had moved here from France, actually, really high-end hairdresser, worked with a big brand. And we were just talking about the differences in the culture of hair in Europe versus here. And he's like, you know, there's a level of competition within a salon that doesn't exist in Europe. And he was explaining that to me. And at that moment, a hairdresser came through the front door to come to work. And he said, "You see her?" And he's like, "Yeah." And that's right behind her was a walk-in. He said, "She would kill me for that walk-in." He said, they all would kill me for that walk-in. They would kill each other for that walk-in. And we laughed about it, but it was kind of a little profound moment, because he was saying there's a competitive nature that I, as a manager, I as an owner, if I can't figure out what to do with that, I'm creating or allowing an unhealthy environment in my salon. And I think that's a really interesting little slice of something that we don't even really talk about, that I think has an impact on everything.
Definitely. I think there's a opposite side of that too, where nobody wants to take anybody. There's definitely an opposite on that one as well.
Interesting. That's a Michael moment.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's Gordon pointed to it, that a great coach, a Jedi coach, is going to help the person in whatever genre they are, or whatever cloth they're cut from, find a why. It's not a question of, is there a why out there for me? That is not the question.
Right.
It's, let's go hunting, find it together. And when you do, one of the things that the coach does is reminds the person that they're coaching of their why when they forget. Because until it gets wired into the brain, we just forget. We just have so much going on in our life today.
We should have sound effects right now.
We should. And I'll just, my last thing to say, I think probably, I'm not saying we're done, but again, that why is so big. And when I look outside at the larger world, religion is an important part of many people's lives, perhaps
Right.
the majority. Religion, I grew up, in a very Methodist household. Went to Sunday school every day until I was 16, and I really haven't been back since, I'll say. But however, religion is all about the why of getting through life.
Absolutely.
It's foundational for so many of us, and those of us who maybe have left it, we found our version of why, and we're okay with where we are right now. But we all need a why to get through life.
Yeah,
To think that we don't need that for our work every day, is to miss one of the bigger ideas of what does create success.
Absolutely. You need a purpose. You need the why, the purpose to get up every day and continue to be the successful version of yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. And it takes working on yourself to be able to do that. And that's so true. And to have a coach to say, hey, just reminding you that, we're still doing this together. And this is your why.
Yeah.
And
it's a collaborative. The new coaching model in my mind is it doesn't have the verticality.
Correct.
There's still some verticality, but the biggie is we're collaborating. We're going to find the why together, which is different than me, the coach, is going to be writing you prescriptions all day long.
Yep.
Right.
And it's hard to get ourselves to understand that everything we talked about, it's very, on the surface, for most people listening, it's probably like hard to go, well, I need a coach, I need a coach. And it's a lot of times because we've never experienced it. We think we can get there on our own. And I would say to anybody who's thinking that, perhaps, go hang out on Instagram at Michael Cole _summit. What are you, Michael? Michael Cole? Because you can have that coaching experience just hanging out on Michael's page every day and listening and watching and learning. To me, that's like the entree into understanding what coaches are truly about and the value. And I would hope that if you hear that, then you'll go, oh my God, I got to go find a coach. It may not be Michael, it may be Michael.
Yeah.
But,
and then I'm giving the Substack. Isn't that your app? Get Gordon?
Substack, that's where, Substack is where my
so you got to go
to
my
website.
Download that and go to Gordon's page, because every week he's got a new a new piece of secret sauce for you.
Oh, definitely.
And a couple podcasts, and that's mine's Social Beauty Makers.
You have so many.
Yeah.
I love it. You both have so much, like I said, I can't really say that enough, but you do give so much value to everyone listening and everyone that has the pleasure of crossing paths with you guys. And I just think you continue to speak that message, and someday, somewhere, someone's going to wake up one day and say, you know what, that's what I need. And that's all it takes. There's one more person every day.
Yes.
I love it.
All right. Well, thank you for having us, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
It's been a blast, and thank you for bringing us to your audience, but thank you for giving Michael and I another opportunity to be with each other, because we always learn from each other and get inspired, and that is exciting. So thank you.
Yeah, it was exciting to listen to the both of you. So I feel very blessed. So much value in this episode, guys. I want you to take the time and digest it all. I hope that you pulled out some pen and paper and wrote down all of those tools that Gordon and Michael went over, because I know that I did. It was so valuable. Going back and listening and re-listening, I always find something else that they've said, and it's just, shined a different perspective again. And that is so true with everything. We always can get into the same rut and the same thing, but if we can listen to something over and over and still get value out of it and still see something in a different way, then you are pushing yourself to think past your limiting beliefs. You're pushing yourself to think past what you feel that you can only do in the industry, right? So you're growing yourself, you're growing your mindset, and you're pushing. I love that. Don't give up on that. Keep pushing and keep moving that line. Don't settle for just every day going through the motions. That's not what this is about. You can do so much more. You know you can. I know that you can. And that's why we're here, to help you grow and to help you push. I've linked every resource into this episode. Please, please start following the two of them. They're incredible and they share so much with you every day, something new. Follow Gordon on his podcast and follow Michael on his reels. He's pretty much the guru of making reels. So if you want to find out how he does it, definitely reach out to him. He's incredible. I also linked my shift book to this as well, and some coaching resources too. So we have all of the things for you to be successful. We support you no matter what. We're always here. If you need anything, just reach out. I've got you.